Greetings, my friends. You are on the Ruslan Belov channel, and today we will talk about how, in just one single day, a whole mosaic of frontline episodes has formed into a clear picture of change. I promise you honest value. You will get a complete view of the military situation, from the northern borders to the steppe directions of Zaparisia, and you will understand why exactly now every decision on the map costs more than it did yesterday. As proof, the details of the bridge blown up on the Sumy border and a series of confirmed combat episodes from Pokrovsk to Kupansk, where every step forward is measured not by kilometers on a map, but by broken logistical arteries. Watch this video until the end, because closer to the finale, we will bring all the facts together and discuss what this means for the weeks ahead. Let us begin with the Sumy direction. Along the state border, on a road that connected Ukrainian and Russian territories, a bridge was blown up. There are two versions. Either it was the work of a Russian sabotage group, or it was a preemptive Ukrainian operation. But what matters is not who pressed the detonator, but the consequences. The road is cut, which means neither side can use it for the sudden redeployment of battalions, ammunition and fuel. In military logic, a bridge is not just reinforced concrete. It is the promise of maneuver. Today that promise turned into a fracture point. Who gains more from this rupture, we will understand later, when the dynamics of the northern sector become clearer. But already now it is obvious, any large-scale plan on this arc has become riskier and far more costly. Let us shift southwards to the Zaparisia sector. Here the focus is on the triangle of Huliaipol, Pokrovsk, and Uspanivka, as well as the line toward Vishnev and Verbov. Russian units continue their westward push, slowly but steadily squeezing fields and tree lines. Pro-Russian sources claim that the tree belt east of Vishnev is already under Russian control, which means only a few hundred meters remain to the outer streets. If Vishnev is firmly taken, Ukrainian logistics in this triangle will suffer a major fracture. Supply convoys will have to use backdirt roads, columns will stretch out, and delivery times will bloat to critical levels. Meanwhile, Ukrainian sources release footage from Verbov, where their soldiers enter the center and raise a flag. But soon after, the familiar add-on appears. They completed the symbolic act and withdrew. Symbols are important for morale, but the front line is held not by flags, but by sustainable supply. Now the Novopavlivka sector. The key here is not just the village of Ivanivka itself, but the supply of Novopavlivka. Russian troops have entrenched themselves in a significant part of Ivanivka, and now every new airstrike, every advance by an assault group hits the supply arteries. Several days ago, an airstrike destroyed a bridge north of the village, and here are the consequences. Resupply of fuel and ammunition has become slower, evacuation of the wounded more complicated, the speed of reaction lower. This is not about one loud strike, but about the slow and persistent squeezing of the arteries. If Ukrainian troops retreat to Pavlivka, Novopavlivka will be put on a starvation diet. This is the silent mechanics of encirclement. Not a loud breakthrough, but the steady throttling of logistics until the garrison is forced to make an unpleasant choice. Now we come to Pokrovsk. This city is like a lens in which several processes are focused at once. The southern part, judging by the sum of reports, is crumbling. Russian assault groups expand control along the railway toward Kotlin. They clear Daka neighborhoods and blocks west of the highway. But the deeper target is the industrial district along the key road. Whoever controls this belt of factories, warehouses, and road junctions controls the logistics of the entire city system. At the same time, from the southeast, the encirclement of the so-called citadel is unfolding. If this arc closes, Ukrainian units entrenched in the districts of Lazurny, Solnechny, and Shakhtarsky will find themselves in at least an operational pocket. There are not many options, either an organized withdrawal along pre-prepared lines or stubborn defense, which risks turning strong buildings into traps. And let us speak plainly, the loss of southern and especially western Pokrovsk almost automatically means the collapse of the entire agglomeration. Kyiv understands this, and therefore the battles here are doomed to be extremely heavy. On the linking sector, which is called the breakthrough point, there are no spectacular arrows on the maps, but there is methodical work. Russian forces cut dirt roads, lay crossings, pull up engineer units, and tie strongpoints together with short secure roads. The battles for the Shakovsky pocket drag on, but this is like the careful work of a sapper. Many quiet actions in a row, and then suddenly an entire wall collapses. The Civ Lyman sector is entering a phase of escalation. At Dronivka, heavy thermobaric systems are being used. Artillery is systematically pounding the perimeter of strongpoints, clearing tree belts and roads. This is classic preparation for clearance, when every tree and every yard first become squares on a map, and then empty marks. In Yampil, Ukrainian sources released drone strike footage against Russian assault groups, but the very fact of these images means that the fighting is already on the streets, and the northern quarters are no longer a rear. Complementing this picture is progress in the area of Chandriholov, reported even by sources hostile to Russia. If the Civ Lyman road is cut, even just by fire control, the entire chain of strongpoints on this plateau will sag and begin to fall back. Now Kupansk, where the drama of recent days can almost be felt physically. Only yesterday, Ukrainian units still had a narrow corridor to the east, but now it has shrunk to such a bottleneck that it cannot be passed under fire, especially with the swampy terrain of the Oskil River. 2/3 of the city, according to multiple sources, are lost for Kiev. The central districts are trapped between the railway and the water. This is textbook encirclement. First maneuver is lost, then supply collapses, after which defense turns into a slow chain of local skirmishes, where every basement is a separate story, but the outcome is already decided by the geometry of the terrain. The logic of what follows is clear. Once the western and northwestern parts are seized, the road opens towards Sadov and Osinov, and then the ring around the entire grouping east of the river closes. Further north, we look at Vchansk. Ukrainian sources release footage from the southern part of the town. Russian units have cleared the oil plant, advanced along the railway, and judging by the content and geolocation of the videos, the railway station has fallen under Russian control. Just yesterday, the plan was voiced to intensify the assault here, and now it is taking shape. The idea is simple and harsh. Finish the battle for the town, then turn the movement toward Bilyi Kolodiaz. The forests to the west have become a belt of constant close-quarter contacts, where the front line is measured not in kilometers, but in the distance an assault team of 5 men can dash between the trees. Now let us turn the map to the Orivive direction. In Mala Tokmachka, heavy fighting went on all day on the eastern outskirts. Ukrainian positions were hit by Russian FPV drones, and in return, similar drones hit Russian strongpoints near Novopokrovka and to the west. No territorial changes were recorded here, but this is not meaningless statistics. Daily drone duels burn resources, exhaust crews, and break defensive routines. The main vector has shifted towards Stepnohirsk. From here came videos showing Russian positions in the central part, confirmed clearing of the eastern and southeastern edges, and reports of an advance by several hundred meters. Ukrainian drone operators are actively working from the areas of Primorske, Prihorivka, Veselyanka, and Malokaterinivka, striking Russian assault groups at distances inconvenient for regular artillery. This drone struggle is the reason why every quarter in Stepnohirsk turns into a separate mission with its own tempo. The Huliaipol sector is keeping up a high pace. Russian forces are pressing Ukrainian positions near Vysoke. Ukrainian drone crews strike back. Malinivka lives under regular airstrikes because through it, Russia brings in reserves and rotates units for future pressure on Poltavka. The movement toward Poltavka itself comes from the directions of Olhivska and Vishnev. According to field data, the eastern outskirts of Poltavka are occupied. East of the Yanchur River, stable control is established, and in the village itself, clearing of housing blocks is underway. At the same time, reports come in of strikes on Novonikolaivka and Okhotniche, where Russian FPV crews are knocking out firing positions and depots. Slightly to the north, in Novohrihorivka, control over a significant part has been confirmed, with new video materials arriving from locations that usually precede official cartographic corrections. In Verbov, the picture is more complicated. There are both flag-raising videos and claims of full control, but the western edge still awaits hard confirmation. Sappers report demining residential areas, which is always a sign of preparation for firm consolidation. Back to the wide arc of the Pokrovsk direction, where apart from the city fight, the Dobropilia salient is important. In the areas of Muravka and Bilyakivka, there are positional battles saturated with drone duels, but without major shifts. Inside Pokrovsk itself, fighting flares up at the intersections of Privolna and the Street of Defenders of Ukraine, which proves the presence of Ukrainian troops and the fact that Russian groups face the classic exhausting task of house-to-house combat. The western outskirts up to the line of the Street of Defenders of Ukraine are reportedly cleared. But as always in urban war, each block must be confirmed anew. In the southern high-rise district of Shakhtarsky, both sides retreat and return in turns. In practice, this is a grey zone where control shifts day and night. There are also changes further north. Around Zoloty Kolodiaz, more and more signs appear that supply roads are being intercepted by fire and maneuver. Reports surface of Russian groups advancing several kilometers deep, which means only one thing: storming pressure on the village can begin at any moment, if it is not already underway. The Costantineka direction breathes with heavy combat. At Klebanbik, street fighting is confirmed. The southern edge is held by Russia, the center resists, the north maneuvers. Signs of an encirclement from the western arc appear. The whole belt south of the reservoir shakes with attacks and counterattacks. In Pleshchayevka, the fight has shifted to the central quarters. In Ivanopilia and Predtekine, storming attempts are renewed, despite previous claims of full control. All this adds up to a corridor pointing toward Kostiantynivka, making its defense less and less stable. The Siversk direction gives us two markers. The first is Zvanivka. Field reports say Russian units reached the center and entrenched on the eastern edge, which means the pocket between the lines is beginning to collapse. The second is Dronivka. Here, Russian aviation struck temporary deployment points, and FPV drones detected and destroyed a concealed American-made howitzer. This is not only a tactical loss for Ukraine, but also a reduction of counter-battery pressure across the sector. The Krasny Lyman sector confirms the general trend. In Yampil, the Russian side controls a substantial part of the quarters. The assault creeps forward slowly but steadily. In Derilov and Novoselivka, attacks are underway. The western edges are contested, but the main thing is that the Ukrainian side has admitted the loss of Shandriholov and part of Seredny. When official rhetoric is forced to catch up with facts, it usually means the operational window has already closed. Let us once again look at the Kupiansk direction, because here the supply threads of the entire northeast converge. On the road to Sobolivka, heavy fighting is reported. Ukrainian armored vehicles are being hit on the supply routes to the city, and the northern districts are regularly struck by drone salvos. If the supply road east of the Oskil is physically taken, the entire Ukrainian grouping on this bank will face the choice between a quick withdrawal and falling into a full encirclement. To the south and north, Russian forces probe Dvorishne and Bologivka. If Dvorishne is firmly taken, the arc of Ukrainian strongpoints north of Kamenka will sag. The Leipetsk area lives in a mode of stable instability. Daily duels of FPV drones, artillery strikes on positions in Hlubok and in Lipsy itself, but without visible map arrows. Where there are no breakthroughs, there is often heavy attrition of resources and nerves, and that is an important part of the larger picture. Back again to the Sumy direction to close the loop. Kondrativka, Andriivka, Alexeyevka, and Vorachine live under constant pressure from Russian artillery and aviation, while Ukrainian groups attempt attacks toward Alexeyevka and suffer losses. Yunakivka remains under Russian control despite regular attempts by Ukrainian units to hold on to its southeastern edge. Field materials from forward positions confirm counterattacks are being repelled, and the front here is slowly but steadily moving in Russia's favor. Let us gather all these episodes into one meaning. We are looking at a front line where symbolic actions are beginning to lose to material reality. A blown bridge in the north is not just a destroyed structure, but a broken possibility of rapid maneuver. The pressure on Pokrovsk is not only about city blocks, but about dismantling the hub that held the entire agglomeration. Kupiansk is an example of how one day's delay turns an orderly withdrawal into a trap. The Orivive-Huliaipol arc is a mirror of drone warfare, where tempo is set not only by infantry and artillery, but by dozens of small engines gnawing at the nerves of the defense. And here comes the culmination. If we summarize the key facts, the result is this. Initiative across significant portions of the line is shifting to the Russian side, while Kiev has less and less room for maneuver without the risk of multiple operational pockets forming at once. This does not mean instant collapse, but it does mean that every next decision will cost more than the previous one. In the weeks to come, decisive will be not the number of bright videos with flags being raised, but the ability to maintain supply, hold industrial hubs, and issue timely orders for organized withdrawals. The finale will be short and honest. If the Ukrainian command bets on logistics and timely evacuation from the most vulnerable points, it will preserve the core of capable units for the next defensive line. If the bet is again on holding every block for the sake of an image, then the image will turn into encirclements. Write in the comments what you think. Will Ukrainian forces hold Pokrovsk and Kupansk? Or are we witnessing the last days of that defense? Your opinions matter because only in discussion can we grasp the full depth of what is happening. Stay on the channel. Here we examine the maps without illusions and tie facts into clear conclusions.